You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. And today on The Biz, we're talking about the insurance industry update for July 2012, including retirement American style and the Glenn Neeson trial with our special guest, Ken Davis.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I am Steve Savant, your host, and we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial advisors right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And today with me, of course, is my very special guest, Mr. CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA, Ken Davis. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Good to see you.
Well, I always like having you on the show, Ken, and we get a lot of good email on you, and they really appreciate you. And we're going to talk about a lot of topics today, surprisingly coming from the press and really supporting what we're going to do. But before I go that, I want to talk about our sponsor, of course, Brokers Alliance, and you can go out to their site at www.brokersalliance.com, and let's see if we can get on that site. And you can see our site where you can watch all our shows. It's on the on-demand video button for this show and all our shows. And you can go ahead and click on that. And of course, we have several articles archived. You can always retreat to www.brokersalliance.com. Now today, Ken, I want to talk about, right up front, I can't believe this is an article out on the web right now. This article says cuts to retirement tax incentives could damage retirement security. Are they kidding me? They're talking about reducing what you can put into your 401k under the new 2020 plan.
Well, it's going to be really interesting if they do that. Are they going to cut the employees? Are you going to cut the key employees, the owner? Right now, as you and I know, we talk a lot about Section 162 bonuses and stuff like that, Section 79, to try and bring up the owners and key employees to a reasonable level, because their percentages of salary versus their key employee or their rank and file employees is way too low. And it'll be interesting if they try to take another pot shot at the owners and key employees and turn it down even more, or whether it's going to be across the board.
Well, see, it bothers me just because we know that retirement is looming.
Right.
We know we don't have enough money as it is. And now they're thinking about, well, we may need to take away some of the tax incentives for qualified plans because we have a revenue shortfall in the United States government. And remember, the whole point of this was so that we could be what?
Self-sufficient.
Self-sufficient.
Right.
And now they're talking about going to, these are just things that I know, Ken, they just bug me.
Yeah.
Another article out on there, it says, listen to this. After saying all that, there's another report out by AARP. Almost half of workers plan to lock in an annuity at retirement. Now, here's the flip side. We're going all the way over to the other side of the fence on this.
No kidding.
We're talking about annuities. Now all of a sudden people are saying, because we're living longer, because the rate is kind of guaranteed, because we're talking about principal preservation, annuities now, almost half the workers plan on locking part of their total retirement plan in annuities.
You know, isn't it interesting? For years, we all watched with dismay at the articles about how terrible annuities are, and we're going to be talking about Glenn Neeson later on, and they're threatening to put this gentleman in jail for selling an annuity. And now the government's saying annuities are good. And the thing is governments work so slowly and they're so political. So if they start locking in and regulating this, they won't be able to change. And so now we're finally getting the recognition that annuities do a really good thing, which is make sure that people don't run out of money.
Well, when I look like an article, when I see an article like this, you should pick this up. This is the AARP report. If you're looking for a third-party document, wow, this is a great one. And let's see what else we want to talk about today. Well, I don't want to talk about that yet, Clint. I want to talk about, yes, Ken, here's our next article that's out. It says half of the U.S. households are not ready to retire. So we first talked about they want to cut the incentives. Then I said, well, people are looking at annuities because they know they're going to be living longer. Now we're talking about half the U.S. households. Ken, we're not ready.
Well, no, we're not ready, and it's interesting. People that in the baby boom generation that I come from, talked to them years ago, and they're all going to do early retirement, and now it doesn't even look like 65 or 66, is going to hack it, and we're probably talking for a lot of people 70. And I don't shoot me, but I really think that the Social Security system, one of the fixes is going to have to be push it out further. Because we're all living so much longer. And the other thing what's interesting is we're talking about jobs being a problem right now. Well, you know, as the baby boom generation does retire, where are we going to get all these people? So I think the baby boom generation is going to have to work longer, and ultimately part of the jobs creation is going to come from that retirement freeing up space for others.
And it sounds like the people who can get ready for retirement are looking at annuities as a possibility. Now, that brings up an interesting story because we were looking at elder abuse. Elder financial abuse is on the rise, and annuity sales with geriatrics is becoming a big deal.
Well, it is, and I'm really curious. On the one hand, we're being told by the government that annuities are a great thing. On the other hand, they're challenging sales practices in our industry, and maybe rightfully so. I think they're a bit extreme right now, but you know, maybe we all have to revisit this thing and figure out what is appropriate, have some dialogue in our industry, and actually one of our friends, David Sterling's been talking about making sure that things are put into place that were set up in the first place. And so, you know, these products we're selling are complex and they require decision making along the way. So somewhere along the line, there's going to have to be some infrastructure support for these older people to make sure they get sold the right thing and that it's managed properly.
Well, we're all over the issue of elder protection. We want to make sure our people, our
Absolutely.
older Americans, are protected. And there's some sharks out in the waters.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, Ken, let's just face it. I'm wondering if they're going to come up with regulations that are going to say there's a certain amount of age, there has to be somebody in the family present,
Yeah.
maybe even the beneficiaries. I mean, I don't know how far this is going to go, but I think that what we want to do is we want to protect the rights of the elderly, and I still want to be able to show them annuities. Somewhere in the middle, we have to strike a deal that's fair for everyone.
I think that's true.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Glenn Neeson trial. Ken wrote a huge article on this. We're going to talk about it, and you can order it on our site when we come back. You can contact me at thebiz@brokersalliance.com or just dial our number, 1-800-290-7226. And you can watch this show and all our shows right on our homepage. Click on the On Demand at www.brokersalliance.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Companies in our business are always touting service, products, and underwriting. And we do that too. But here's the difference. Now enter the world of the elite producer with a value package that cuts us out of the pack. A BD that approves social media marketing of non-FINRA products and doesn't take an override. With the best competition desk in the industry, and for our loyal producers, a true group health plan. No one offers that. Brokers Alliance does.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant. I'm here with my special guest, Ken Davis, and we're talking about elder abuse. How did that get into an annuity sale trial? This poor guy, Glenn Neeson. Now, remember, I'm not here to say yes or no on the
Right.
trial.
Right.
I think we can agree on one thing before we get into this, Ken. I just don't see why he should even look. He was convicted. He's supposed to do jail time. It's on appeal right now. I don't see in any way why this guy should be doing any time.
Well, let's paint a picture. Standing in a prison, a jail, standing there is somebody that robbed at gunpoint somebody at a liquor store, right?
Right.
And then there's Glenn Neeson, who sold an annuity. And I wasn't there. We weren't in
Right.
the meeting, so we're not going to have any judgment either way because that's really not our job.
Right.
But the question is our system getting crazy? You know, I've been watching now for several years this movement towards criminalizing white-collar business behavior. In particular, there was a property and casualty agent up in Anthem, Arizona, that shortly after a new law on privacy went put into place, he did an absolutely stupid thing, and he threw a bunch of sensitive data into the trash. Somebody caught him. He's now in jail for that. Now, was it stupid? Was it really a bad thing to do? Absolutely. The question is, does he deserve to be in jail or pay some fine, lose his licenses, whatever? His family, the family of the person that sold the business, is in jeopardy now because he's probably not going to pay on his note. So here we have a situation with really bad fact patterns, and there's a lot of people commenting saying that it'll probably be turned on appeal. But what's happened is this has sharpened the focus, put the spotlight on this issue. And my understanding is that attorneys general across the United States, certainly plaintiffs' attorneys, are just all over this, salivating about going after our industry.
Well, Ken, what I'm trying to do is, and you know, you're a CPA, you're a fiduciary, you're a trusted liaison between the insurance companies and agents, because people look to you, they know you know both worlds. I'm looking at this case, and let's just go down the scenario that Glenn did some things wrong. And I'm not
Okay.
saying he did, and I don't think he deserves time, period. But let's just say if he did do it, why is this not going to, at least at the minimum, non-binding arbitration?
Well, and I don't understand that. I mean, I wrote somewhere, I think in this article or another blog, that if you told me a few years ago this fact pattern that some guy was being charged with grand larceny, I would have said you're out of your mind.
Right.
And now this is the reality of it. Now, what's interesting is about this article is I talked about the broader implications. You know, we're focused on our industry, and we're all, quite frankly, a bit scared about this whole thing. What about the heating contractor that Mrs. Jones, at 84 years old, calls up and he replaces her furnace, and then somebody gets angry that, oh no, that furnace shouldn't have been replaced, and you took advantage of this old lady, and is he going to go to jail? I mean, are bankers going to go to jail? Are attorneys going to go to jail? CPAs going to, anybody that serves older people? And here's a really interesting thing. I'm, 60 years old. I'm going into closer to that retirement age at some point, and I'm going to get there. Do I want to lose my civil rights as a person? Am I going to be by de facto a minority again instead of a majority, and I can't make contracts anymore? Am I going to have to call my kids and say, hey, I need to have my heater fixed? You're going to have to oversee this and sign off on this thing?
Exactly.
Or am I going to have to go to the doctor and get some sort of certificate that says that I'm psychologically competent to contract anymore? I mean, these are big issues for everybody.
Well, I'm looking at the idea of this trial. The woman got all her money back.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things, everything was returned. And nobody, I'm trying to figure out why you could lose your license, you could go ahead and return all the money. All these things have occurred, things that we normally would have seen in arbitration, and this got pushed to the limit. Now, again, whether it's politically motivated or not, that's not ours to say.
Don't know.
But I've noticed on your many comments on your article, and Ken had a little firestorm going here. I mean, when you're talking about articles and blogs that are out on the net, Ken's a big player on that regard now. And people look to him because he is a CPA. I mean, the people look to you as a fiduciary. They're trying to let you become really the arbiter here.
Well, and these are really more legal issues, and
Right.
I appreciate people's respecting what I have to say. But really, the attorneys, I find the comments by the attorneys more interesting. The other thing too that has come up as a comment, and I agree with this. We have to be proactive as an industry. If we're going to sit back and just react and watch all of this happen, and the regulators come in and the rules change and all this stuff, and people go into jail, then we deserve what we get. We have to step up, and I'm going to put a little plug in for NAFA. People should be joining. They should be contributing to their political action committee. We need to step this up. We're not saying block it, stop it, because the elderly do need protection. The question is, what is a reasonable approach to take care of this generation? And what's interesting, the baby boom generation has made waves all the way through. We're such a large mass of people.
We are.
Gerber baby foods, and then diapers, and then it was preschool and kindergarten. Now we're approaching this age, and it's this huge population. So we need to take action, be involved in the dialogue, and make sure the laws do protect, but at the same time make sure they protect us from unreasonable laws that throw us into jail.
Yeah, I'm always curious how, for whatever reason, when we're talking about security sales to geriatrics, that seems to be that's kind of a secondary issue.
Yeah.
As soon as we get into fixed annuities,
I know.
where the principal preservation is the key reason why the client even wants to look at it, it becomes a problem. So I think we're getting undue scrutiny by people who we're competing against direct head-to-head in products. And now I think what's going to happen is we're going to have rules of engagement that we're going to have to come to, we're just going to have to create it. And I think we're now looking at creating our own, even here at our show, how to do this so that everyone's protected. The elderly, the insurance carrier, and of course, the contracts that we sell, we want them to do what we said they're going to do.
That's right.
Well, you can watch this show and all our shows right here at www.brokersalliance.com. If you want to write me, it's The Biz at Brokers Alliance. You can always call us 1-800-290-7226. That's the Buzz on the Biz for today. See you tomorrow.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, We're the news you can use.